From the lair of the white worm, it's the IGN Digigods. And now, please welcome two men whose gothic, altered states are crimes of passion, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Yeah, we love a good Ken Russell reference. Corey, which of our fans is big on the Ken Russell?
That was brought to you by What's-His-Face, who does things with movies. That was brought to you by Ken Russell. Who? Teresa Russell.
No.
What are we talking about?
No.
That was brought to you by Mario Mendez.
There we go.
Super duper Mario Mendez. Thought it was going to be a video game reference? Wasn't. Fooled you.
Mario, of course, brother of Mike Mendez. We will forever attach him to his brother who did Big Ass Spider.
Yeah.
Love the Big Ass Spider.
Now, Wade, here's the thing.
Yes, sir.
Now, right before we went on, I checked Facebook.
Yeah.
And have you seen our good friend Mark Sanderson's latest post?
No.
Now, Mark Sanderson, very successful writer,
Yes.
screenwriter, like an actual working
Correct.
writer in the business.
Yes, correct.
Consistently working. He's one of those like guys who, okay, forget, whatever, writing the next
Yep.
Avengers, forget
Yep.
Oscars, whatever. He's one of the many who is blessed with having a consistent,
Correct.
decent paying, can be proud of it.
Yes.
Job.
Also someone
career.
also someone I went to high school and film school with and acted in two of his student films. But
Interesting you should say that.
I because I'm getting in front of this.
Excuse,
Yes.
do you know what it is?
No, but I have a
This
feeling.
is what Mark just posted.
Go ahead.
And I'm saying this because maybe our fans can watch this.
Yeah.
The opening scene of my video project one at UCLA Film School, Heinous Crimes,
Oh dear.
stars Wade Major,
Oh,
Dean
dear.
Mason, and a cameo from Raj Makwana,
Oh dear.
who also did the superb music score.
Oh dear. Raj
And,
did do a good job with the music, but
and
dear.
ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see Wade,
Oh dear.
is that really you?
I don't even know what the picture is, but
Look,
it
look at that.
must
Is that
be.
you on the left?
Yeah.
That is bizarre.
Oh my gosh.
You look nothing like you look.
Thank goodness. Dean looks the same though.
Dean looks the same. Dean, by the way, who is famous because he was an extra in Star Trek 6. Now, have we told the Star Trek 6 extra story recently?
About Dean, about when Alfred Woodard, they're crawling through some kind of a service tube or something to escape the Borg or whatever. I don't even know. I remember what it was. But Alfred Woodard, whichever one is Alfred Woodard's in, she comes and she crawls out of frame, and then right behind her, there's Dean as a crew person and an extra, and he makes the most of that moment, man. He just looks up, tilts his face right into the camera, and then moves on by. That is amazing.
Now, wasn't he the one who was saying that Gates McFadden was a little bit of a biatch?
I
Did
can't
he
remember.
say that?
He may have. I can't remember.
I think Dean said that. Anyway,
That's the one where they're escaping the Borg, right? Wasn't that the one?
that's a good one. No, what's it called? I forgot the name. First Contact.
I can't remember. First Contact. Yeah, maybe
Contact's
that's
terrific.
it.
It's one of
Yeah.
the best ones of the whole series,
Can't
quite
remember.
frankly.
Whatever.
What? How dare you?
So,
By the way,
what did you do in Canada?
I was in Canada.
What did you do?
Now, except for one day in Montreal about 15 years ago, I've never been to Canada. So I wanted
No,
to
so
get,
the incident with the bear, the beer, the water
No.
weenie didn't happen.
No, did not.
Okay, all right.
I wanted to get out of town, wanted to take an adventure, little
Sure.
trip, Labor Day. I asked my friends, where should I go? Someone says Hawaii, someone says Mexico.
Okay.
And I do a bunch of Googling. And the Googling is like, places to go that's less than a 3-hour plane flight from Los
Yes.
Angeles. Because I don't want to go to Paris. And Whistler comes up. And I started reading about Whistler, which is a resort area, mostly a ski area. However, you can, they do have summertime activities.
Sure.
So it becomes interesting. So I start telling friends, there's a dark horse candidate. The dark horse is Whistler. And then suddenly, everybody knows about Whistler. I've been there 17 times.
Yep.
Oh, hey, I'm going to Whistler. Thinking about going to Whistler. Whistler, I've been there. I got married there. I'm thinking of going to Whistler. I've been there 17 times. Whistler, I love Whistler. Everybody coming out of the woodworks to say how much they love Whistler. All these people I didn't even know were ever in Canada suddenly love Whistler. So I'm like, all right, make it happen.
There you go.
Went bear watching, went whitewater rafting.
Now, you went bear watching, meaning you went watching bears as opposed to bear people.
You mean like gay?
Like
the
naked-
bear
like naked.
thing? Oh, bear! I thought you
Naked-
meant
like naked.
Yes, I saw bears.
No, not like big, hairy gay men, no.
So I do
No.
whitewater rafting, right? So here, okay, real quick, I'll tell you the story.
Okay.
So I do the whitewater, and this is one of those Mark neurotic New Yorker stories. So I'm a little nervous. I'm a city kid, nervous
Yeah.
about whitewater rafting. So I decide to sign up for level 1. Now,
Of
level
course you
1
did.
is basically just a stick floating on the water.
Sure.
That's what level 1 is. So I sign up for that, and I'm even nervous about that. The night before, I get a call from the whitewater rafting people saying, essentially, that I was the only person cowardly enough to sign up for level 1, which means that they're not going to run the class that day because they don't run a class where there's only one person, especially a coward who wants level 1. So either they can give me a refund or they can kick me up to level 2 and 3 and take that rafting ride. Now, that freaked me out because I can't ride roller coasters. I make myself car sick when I drive. Basically, I'm Woody Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very nervous. And I asked her a million questions. I put her through the ringer. I was like, how big are the waves? How long is the ride? Can I sit in the back so if I throw up, it'll be okay? All this sort of stuff. So finally, when she's probably about to tell me to go to hell and just hang up on me, I said, okay, fine, I'll do the 2-3, the 2-3 class. So I do the 2-3 class. Let me tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
It was a blast. It was so much fun.
Really?
Literally, the guy who said to the other people in the boat, and I did say this, I did reiterate this to the people in the boat. I did say, may I please sit in the back in case I throw up? And they laughed, and one guy had a GoPro on the top of his head. He was shooting the whole thing on a GoPro. And but in the end, whenever we went over a big wave, I was the guy yelling, woohoo! I was having such a blast. It was great. Anyway, Whistler, gorgeous, beautiful, would love to return. I'm
Nice.
planning on returning next summer. It's just a gorgeous,
Well,
beautiful,
good for
wonderful
you.
place with good food, nice people. Met a girl, didn't go anywhere, but it lent some intrigue to the weekend. I met twins. The next day was their 36th birthday. There were twins. Yes.
Like in the beer commercial?
Yes.
Yeah.
The next day was their 36th birthday.
Uh-huh.
And so I hung out with them that night and a little bit the night after
All
on their
right.
birthday.
All right.
Nothing happened, but again, it lent some intrigue to the
Well,
weekend.
there we go.
There you go.
Good
Okay.
deal. Well, good for you.
Well, you asked, and now you know.
I'm glad you had a great time.
Oh, except for the fact that my Air Alaska flight was 3 hours late taking off,
Ooh.
which bogarted the entire good vibe I had from the trip.
Air Alaska's supposed to be a nice airline. Never been on it.
You know what? Here's the thing. I've never flown Alaska Airlines. So my initial impression...
You know, Joe Settlemeyer used to do their commercials. You remember that? Like, everybody used to talk about him as being like the guy who did the Where's the Beef Wendy commercials. But he was the man back then. He was doing the Alaska Airlines commercials. He was doing Del Taco commercials. He was doing the Wendy's commercials. He was doing them all out of Chicago.
So
Those were funny commercials on Alaska
now, he was
Airlines.
the short guy with the mustache, right? Was he that guy?
Joe Settlemeyer, the commercial director in Chicago.
Oh, the director.
Yeah.
No, the short guy with the mustache was the guy who talked fast and did the FedEx commercials.
That's right. He did the FedEx stuff, too. Yeah, he did
Anyway,
the FedEx commercials.
so I'm saying
too.
is I've never flown Alaska Airlines, right? So my initial impression, very poor, because the plane was 2 hours and 45 minutes taking off, okay? But the plane itself, nice. I mean, there's a lot of legroom. And look, I'm 6 feet, so and I have long legs, so it's like I am very aware
Yeah.
of how uncomfortable plane flights are to me. Alaska
You
Airlines.
will turn around and you will punch somebody using a knee
Oh
defender.
yeah, exactly.
I
In
would
fact,
too.
I'll yell "I love Allah" while I do it. See what happens. But Alaska Airlines, a lot of legroom. Anyway, so I complained, right? I
Right.
complained because 2
Yeah,
hours.
sure.
Sure. They gave me $100 off my next flight,
No kidding.
They did.
That's pretty sweet.
and I'm going to use that to go to New York for Thanksgiving.
Good deal.
Now, I'm under the impression we're supposed to talk about DVDs.
Yes, we are. And I have a mea culpa to offer. I screwed up. Every once in a while I get my notes wrong, and I screwed something up a few weeks ago, so I want to redeem myself. When I was talking about the film Home is Where the Heart Is, I screwed up my cast names. Because I was looking at notes, I was looking at the box cover, I got it all screwed up, and I mistakenly identified... Bailey Madison is the little girl. The little sister. She's not the little, but the little sister in the movie is Bailey Madison. I incorrectly identified Bailey Madison as the guy who had been the character actor who was also in Beverly Hills Cop, who in fact is Jonathan Banks. So I want to get that
Ooh,
straight.
Jonathan Banks, who was in 48
Jonathan
Hours.
Banks.
He was the cop who got shot in the hotel in 48 Hours.
Was he?
Yeah.
Was he really?
Don't do it, Jack. Don't do it for me.
I see. I don't remember that. But I remember him, in Beverly Hills Cop. Hey, cuz.
Why is there
Bam.
why is there not
He's a great actor. He is, Jonathan Banks. My apologies to everybody, to Bailey Madison, to Jonathan Banks, and everybody else for confusing those names.
Why is there not a special Blu-ray of 48 Hours?
God, is that not the?
I mean, it started the modern buddy cop movie.
The problem is Paramount doesn't care about any of their catalog titles. They don't. I mean, they've turned them all over to Warner Brothers. So unless Warner Brothers works something out where they get a bigger piece of the pie for doing the hard work. Paramount's not going to do that. Paramount doesn't do anything for that. As far as they're concerned, once a movie is 6 months old, it's done. It's played out. It's disposable. That's the Paramount philosophy now.
Unless Eddie Murphy somehow gets nominated for an Oscar, career resurgence,
even
they
then,
see some money in it.
Even then, they won't do it. They just don't do it. Paramount does not do those special editions for their catalog titles. They just won't do it.
By the way, can I say that the other night I watched Cabaret?
Yes.
And I was very late watching the Blu-ray on that. And Cabaret, it's so good.
Yep.
Really great.
It sure is. It's awesome.
And you know, what's funny about Cabaret, not to talk about a film that we talked about 2 weeks ago when we should be talking about films for this upcoming week, but you have to be reminded that at the 1972 Oscars, Cabaret won almost 3 times as many Oscars as The Godfather won.
Yep.
You know, like Coppola did not win Best Director for The Godfather.
No.
Bob Fosse won.
That's right.
Pacino did not win Best Supporting Actor for Godfather.
Joel Grey won.
Joel Grey won. And Liza Minnelli won.
I mean, 2 years later, Godfather 2 kind of swept everything. Coppola got his Oscar, and
which is fine. It should,
and it should have. But yeah, that's true. Godfather got Best Picture, but Cabaret was very much in the mix with all of that. And there are certain years where there is this like, oh my gosh, they're like 2 great films. And they're kind of sharing the wealth, and the other, 65 was like that. Everybody thinks of 65 as the year of Sound of Music. Sound of Music won, like 7 awards or something. But Dr. Zhivago won like 6, and they're big ones too. Cinematography and script and all that stuff. So I mean, there's there are years where you got a couple of heavy hitters. That was one of them.
Now, by the way, before we get into DVDs,
yes.
Now, we know we talked on the Facebook page a little bit about Joan Rivers.
Yes.
Who passed away last week.
Yeah.
And I went off the beaten path with my Joan Rivers movie selection because she didn't do a lot of movies.
No.
Which is fine. But I did say that if you would like to see a great movie that happens to be her film debut, you should go see The Swimmer. You should rent The Swimmer.
I would agree.
Which is one of my favorite Burt Lancaster performances.
Yep.
It's a great movie. It's a cult classic, a little bit overlooked. There was a rumor that Adrian Brody, I think, was going to star in a remake of it or something.
There was such a rumor, and it's rather unfortunate because The Swimmer, as far as its DVD history, is interesting. It was originally released in 2003 by Columbia. Okay, at the time Columbia TriStar Home Video, now would be Sony. And I don't know what happened to it, but 11 years later, just this last March, it winds up being released on Blu-ray by Grindhouse Releasing. Now, if there's ever a movie that does not fit the Grindhouse label, it's The Swimmer. So I don't understand how The Swimmer wound up on Grindhouse Releasing. However, unless it's a different Swimmer, they there it is. But they never sent it to us, so we were never able to talk about it.
Well, here's what I'm going to do now, Wade. I'm going to read the entry for The Swimmer.
Do that.
In the Leonard Maltin's 2015 movie guide. Now, there's a reason why we are reading this specifically from Leonard Maltin's 2015 movie guide.
Indeed.
And Wade will tell us what that is in a second. But here's what Leonard had to say about The Swimmer. 1968, 3.5 stars. Middle-aged man swims from pool to pool on journey home during hot afternoon. Each pool evokes past memories and events. Fascinating, vastly underrated film adapted from John Cheever's short story. Lancaster superb, and location filming in Connecticut perfectly captures mood. So, Wade, why do we want to read this from Leonard Maltin's 2015 movie guide?
Because this is the final edition of Leonard Maltin's movie guide. He will be continuing this no more. It will no longer be published. It will. I assume it will be available in perpetuity in an unupdated version digitally for the iPad and the iPhone and digital devices. But as far as being able to purchase a brand new printed, big, thick Leonard Maltin's movie guide every year in book form, that is no longer going to be a reality.
It's a shame.
It's a shame.
It's a shame.
That's Leonard. It breaks my heart because Leonard is one of those guys that had just a huge, profound impact on all of us. And for those of us who grow up and wind up finding ourselves in meetings and with Leonard in the same room, there's still something kind of ethereal about it.
He does give off an aura.
He gives off an aura.
And by the way, he doesn't ask for that. He's the nicest, menschest, sweetest guy in the history of everything.
Am I not right?
No, you're
LAFCA
wrong.
meetings.
You're wrong.
LAFCA meetings can degenerate into truly like a pack of hyenas just fighting and yelping and yipping. And certain people will say things and other people will carp at them. And it becomes really just just unruly at a certain point. There's nothing you can do to maintain order. And then Leonard will speak, and so help me God, it's like Moses coming down from the mountain, and everyone shuts up and they obey. And it's like there's just something you don't want to disrespect the guy. He just carry, and he doesn't wear it on his sleeve. It's just about him. He's so nice and he's so sweet and he's so knowledgeable and he's so unassuming, and he doesn't frickin' age. He looks the same now as he did 40 years ago. It's unbelievable. And there it is. He just brings everything back to that level tone. It's amazing.
Now, people don't realize that back in the day, you know, when you would go to a video rental store to rent a movie, you would have Leonard Maltin's guide either in your hand or in your head, deciding what to rent.
I would watch, absolutely. I would watch television, and this thing was always like 3 inches away, because you see the stars in the TV guide or in the guide rating thing. You just go, I know those aren't accurate. I know that's just not representative. And go to Leonard.
And then when the new one came out, you wanted to know what he thought about your favorite films from the previous year.
Absolutely. Yep.
God, I love Star Trek 2. What does he think of Star Trek 2?
Yeah.
And I never forget his Star Trek 2 review.
Well, Ray did a little NPR piece, which I posted a link of on the Facebook page, and he interviewed me, and he interviewed Robert Abley about it.
I heard your thoughts on it. I listened to it.
Yeah.
Your thoughts weren't very good. Anyway.
Well, thank you. Ray interviewed me for like 40 minutes, and I got in there with like 2 sound bites. I'm like, where's the rest of the stuff? Anyway,
please.
It's all good. It's all good. So, Mark, we're going to talk about some new movies right now. We have a Vox Box this week. We got a Vox. Not now. We have a Vox Box, but first off, let's talk about Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which was sent to us in the standard. We're Marvel, and we make so much money that we have to act like we're paupers. So we're not going to send anybody final product on this. We're just going to send you a generic Blu-ray, not the 3D Blu-ray, and it's not even going to come with packaging or anything else. So here, make do with this, losers. And so I can really only talk about the movie. I can't talk about the 3D. I can't talk about any of the extras or anything. I cannot speak to any of that stuff.
You can't talk about them. It wouldn't be fair.
It chafes me that of all these companies out there that distribute DVDs, there is only one that is unspeakably cheap, and it's Marvel.
It really is true.
It's unbelievable. They will not, even when they had the Avengers making ungodly sums of money, they wouldn't even buy consideration ads for the people who worked on that movie to possibly get Oscar nominations.
Just do it. You know what it is? It's becoming it's almost becoming Kardashian-esque in this sense.
Yeah.
That you're supposed to be honored and proud that you're working on a Marvel film.
Here's the thing.
Yes.
You and I both know this business has a funny way of turning the tables. And there's a reason why it's bad politics in this business for any producer or any director to be mean to their assistant. There's a good reason for that, and that's because in 2 or 3 years' time, that assistant could be Kevin Feige and could be running an entire division and suddenly be your boss. Okay, when Francis Coppola threw a bone to this little filmmaker who really wanted to get a movie made, nobody else would help him get it made, named George Lucas, to get American Graffiti made. Little did they know that only a few years later, Coppola would be bankrupt and would actually need Lucas to throw him a bone. These things turn on a dime. So Marvel, Marvel's in the top of the world right now. Wow, Guardians of the Universe has been, number one for like 5 very weak weeks or whatever it is, 4 weeks, whatever it is. But you know what? Marvel's fortunes could flip in a heartbeat. And suddenly they could actually need people to say nice things about them again. They should keep that in mind. Nobody stays on the top of the heap forever. And in fact, Christy and I were just talking about this the other day. All the different executives who used to run the studios. You go back into the 1980s and you look at who was running studios back then, and you ask yourself, where are they now? They are out of the business, most of them. Sure, Katzenberg's here, Barry Diller's on top of the world. You got a handful that are still there, Bruckheimer and whatnot. But you look at a lot of these others, they are gone. They're gone. They are non-factors. They're out of the business. I mean, it's amazing. This business is cruel. It is indiscriminate. And Marvel needs to just be a little nicer and stop being so cheap.
Well,
be good
that's
to your
true.
People. Buy some consideration ads. I swear, so help me, I am going to go off on that company if they do not buy any consideration ads for Guardians of the Galaxy. Give me a break. #1 film of the year. Buy a consideration ad. Is it going to get any Oscar nominations? A few technical ones probably, but geez, be nice to these people. Show them you appreciate them.
It is true.
Gosh.
The sad part is that I enjoyed Captain America Winter Soldier very much.
You know what? Dupree really buffed up. Exactly. He did. Best sequel to You, Me, and Dupree I've ever seen. Gosh.
It's
Anyway,
good.
No, it is good.
It's a
It is
fun
good.
movie. It's exciting. It's fun. It's engaging.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did not think I would. That's it. That's where you realize that these Marvel films are almost Pixar-esque
True.
in the sense that they have been they are polished and spit shined down to the nub. And,
I agree.
But that's okay. They're
I
good.
agree.
What can I tell you? And I love seeing even though
it's a good script. It's not typical of the the superhero things have gotten very formulaic. That one is not typical. They were able to find a way of doing a few interesting things, and it's different, and I appreciated that.
It's got that 70s paranoia thing going on, which obviously they've honored by hiring Robert Redford to play one of the major roles.
Indeed.
Even though Redford has no idea what he's doing in this movie, you can tell. It's still Robert Redford. By the way,
it does feel as though he just walked onto a soundstage and said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and they said, "No, stay here, read these lines."
Really
okay, and he reads the lines, and then he goes and he walked off. Isn't that what it feels like?
It really is true.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. No, come on in.
It's the best. Anyway, we liked it a lot. We can't speak for the Blu-ray because they didn't send it to us because they're cheap. But and we would love to rip on the movie based on the fact that they're cheap, but we can't because we liked it a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, I am going to rave right now about what I think is one of the best films of the year, Words and Pictures. Words and Pictures is an unbelievably great movie. It did not really get the great release that it deserved. It was released very kind of, I don't want to say half-heartedly, because Roadside Attractions does the best that they can. But this needed like a studio release. A studio would have gotten behind this and would have just pushed this thing over the top. Clive Owen and Juliette Binoche are absolutely wonderful. For Fred Skepsey, who hasn't directed a great movie, and this is maybe the best film he's done since A Cry in the Dark. I mean,
really?
That's
how about Roxanne?
Better than Roxanne. I cried at this movie. It is so good. Gerald DePago, veteran screenwriter, wrote it. This was just a labor of love for him. Produced by Curtis Birch, who was like a development guy for a long time. I mean, these are veteran guys, and there's just so much heart in this. Here's what this is: Clive Owen, he's an alcoholic. It takes place basically in a private school, and Clive Owen is this alcoholic English teacher, and he just wants them to appreciate English, but his life is a shambles, and he cannot infect them with this love of language. No matter what he does, he just doesn't have the Robin Williams touch, right, from Dead Poets. He doesn't have that thing going. And then Juliette Binoche shows up. She is a great artist from New York who now is crippled and is relegated to basically just trying to instill that love of art into another generation, but she's got all her baggage as well. Yes, it's part kind of meet cute and romantic comedy, but it has dark edges to it. And their relationship takes on this fascinating twist when they do this competition with the students. What's more powerful, words or pictures? And it's kind of a romantic duel between them, but it's also about art, about the power of art, and they're able to use this competition to instill this infectious love of creativity into these students. I mean, it is a magnificent movie. It clicks on every single cylinder. And you know what? There's a quote here on the cover. What does it say? What does that quote say?
Piece of crap, Wade Major.
What's that quote say?
One of the best films of the year, NPR?
That's actually my quote.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is. It's my quote. My name's not attached to it because it was a film week, but they had to get approval. So that's how I know that. But anyway, it's a wonderful movie, and it's a terrific looking Blu-ray. They did a great job. Also has the digital HD deal on it. They got a few featurettes on here. A tremendous commentary with Fred Skepsey. The behind-the-scenes thing is fine; it's not brilliant, but the commentary is the real deal. Skepsey is just so good. He's so good.
He can be so good.
He's so good.
What's not so good is A Long Way Down. This is waste a good cast. It's Pierce Brosnan, Toni Collette, Imogen Poots, and Aaron Paul, the latter from Breaking Bad. This is about these four guys. One's a TV host, the other is a single mom, and the other there's another one too. There's like this foul-mouthed teen, and they all want to kill themselves on New Year's Eve. So they all go to the same place to go kill themselves. And of course they meet. It's like the ultimate meet cute.
Yep.
Four people who want to commit suicide meeting cute on New Year's Eve. And so they all start to get, they call it off, and they decide to not kill themselves for a couple months, and then, of course, they all start talking and get to know each other. And, I have to say that this movie is terrible. It's, the problem with this movie, it was written by Nick Hornby, who's a terrific writer.
He is a great writer, tremendous writer.
Responsible for stuff like High Fidelity and whatnot. It's just I don't feel like this movie had any emotional credibility. It was like a Hallmark greeting card. It's a little preposterous, kind of at its face. Oh,
Sure.
look, we're all going to meet each other, killing ourselves at the same moment. That's fantastic. Then that's okay if you want to. If you want to thoroughly manufacture your setup, you better have some place pretty interesting to go. But it doesn't. It's just a pretty typical story. So I'm not a big fan of A Long Way Down, although it does have a very good cast, may I say.
So,
wait, I'm getting some chocolate peanut butter ice cream, which I made, which you cannot eat.
no, I can't.
You cannot
because
have chocolate peanut butter ice cream.
No, I can't. I can't
Okay,
have
keep
peanut
going.
butter. I can't have peanut butter. Can't have peanut butter.
So
you know
good.
what I'm going to do? We have a ton of catalog titles and DVR, MOD titles to talk about. So while you're doing that, I'm going to rock and roll some 20th Century Fox Cinema Archives titles. 20th Century Fox Cinema Archives titles are like the Warner Archive titles. They are manufacture on demand, otherwise known as MOD. You get them in pristine quality DVD-Rs, and you're going to want to get some of these. These are pretty much, for the most part, strictly for fans of old movies, people who are really into the whole nostalgia scene. None of these are amazing. Some of them are quite good. Most of them are just great nostalgia pieces. The Dion quintuplets in 5 of a kind from 20th Century Fox Cinema Archives. This is interesting just because we've completely forgotten about the Dion quintuplets. This was back when, movies at a certain B level were like carnival attractions, anything to put some kind of a freak show on the marquee and get people in there. And, the Dion quintuplets are genuinely a kind of a weird freak show. So they're 4.5 years old in this movie, and not very good actors, but quite good performers, I have to say. They kind of do it all. But what is interesting is the supporting cast. You have Claire Trevor, Jean Hersholt, of whom is named the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award, and Cesar Romero, of all people. So a young Cesar Romero along with these quintuplets. Really, I felt like I was at the circus. You also have Champagne Charlie, a movie that has long been forgotten. It's about a gambler, and it's not really a crime film or whatever. It's sort of an interestingly non-linear whodunit in a way, I guess. It's okay. It's not terrible, but it's very much a programmer from the era, and features Paul Cavanaugh, Helen Wood, Thomas Beck, people have completely forgotten about, directed by James Tinling. Just a straight up programmer from the era. The Affairs of Cellini, I thought, was surprisingly good. I'd always heard about this, had never seen it. This is a Daryl Zanuck production starring Frederick March, who was a real big deal back in the day. Frederick March was, one of the great character actors of all time. And this was directed by Gregory LaCava, who also was a bit of a big deal. And this is basically the story of the Italian Renaissance sculptor Benvenuto Cellini. So you get this, beautiful depiction of Florence. It's all shot on backwoods and everything else, but it's just really it's a nice little biopic from the era. Real quickly, you also have Sonja Henie. After she was the Norwegian ice skating queen of the 30s and 40s, and they tried to turn her into a bit of a movie star at a certain point. She wound up doing a whole bunch of mediocre movies that are okay. She's in Everything Happens at Night, along with Ray Milland and Robert Cummings. They do obviously the acting, and she will say a few cute things and then throw on ice skates and do her thing. And people paid money to see it. It's okay. So everything else about it is sort of negligible. The Girl on the Bridge is another kind of straight-up programmer. Nobody of note in this, but it's decently acted. Bit of a standard melodrama from the day. We also have Air Patrol, if you're into the old kind of action thing. This is kind of a cop film. Also, nobody of any interest in that really. Better is Gateway with Don Amici and Arlen Whelan. John Carradine shows up in this as well. A decent cast of character actors from the era. It's got a war angle to it. The film was made just before World War II started, so you kind of feel like World War II is bubbling over. It's about a war correspondent who meets this young girl on a boat, and suddenly there's this whole kind of a bit of an intrigue before they get to Ellis Island, and it's fine. It's satisfactory. Clara Bow in Call Her Savage is a 1932 film where Clara Bow tried to make a move into sound films, into talkies. Never really worked for her. She was always like the darling of silence, and like so many others, she just couldn't quite make that leap. Thelma Todd is in this as well. Gilbert Rowland, all people who had a great career in silence and never quite made the jump. But that being said, as a kind of a poverty row melodrama, it works on a certain level. Then we've got, before I lose too much more time, we've got a movie called Fighting Back, which is about a dishonorably or an honorably discharged soldier who has a bit of a shady past, and there's this follows him into private life. It's okay. I guess that was something that reflected a lot of what was happening at the time. Colonel Effingham's Raid is a better-than-average film that stars Charles Coburn, Joan Bennett, and William Eighth, and directed by Irving Peikel, who had a brief but very successful career at the time. This was made right after World War II, and it's about this retired colonel who wants to save his favorite square in a small town. So it wants to be a Frank Capra film, not quite that. And then last couple here, we got the Jones family, not quite quintuplets, but they are a family. And they're in Down on the Farm with a whole bunch of people you have never, ever heard of. The only reason they made this film is because there were a lot of people in America living on farms. This is when Ma and Pa Kettle were a big deal, and everybody decided we got to make a movie about farm folk, because farm folk go to see movies. They didn't go. And then lastly, the really more recent film in this is Alex and the Gypsy with Jack Lemmon and Geneviève Bujold. And this is a surprisingly enjoyable movie. It dates very poorly. It's got that whole kind of 70s groove factor on it. When Jack Lemmon got into the 70s, Jack Lemmon and Charlton Heston had these great careers, like during the studio era. And then in the 1970s, suddenly they're like a little old and hairy and sweaty. You notice that?
Yeah, but old, hairy, and sweaty work great in China Syndrome.
They do, don't they? And it works well in Soylent Green and Omega Man and Planet of the Apes as well.
But Heston never. Here's the thing, though. I mean, Jack Lemmon won an Oscar, Save the Tiger. He did movies during that era. Heston, though, always stayed a little genre.
He did.
He never really had like that legit performance.
Well, anyway, Alex and the Gypsy it's an engaging tete-a-tete, I guess, is the way to put it, between these two great actors.
Look at me.
The story, directed by John Corty, who's kind of a hack, but it's based on a novella by Stanley Elkin that I'd never heard of. But the one thing I really want to say about this is it's got a fantastic Henry Mancini score.
Yeah.
Great Henry Mancini music. So there's some really good stuff there from the Fox Cinema Archives, all of them available only on demand, MOD, DVD-Rs. So go out and order these things if you want them to arrive in your mailbox before Christmas. Okay. I don't know. I have nothing else to say. Go ahead.
Oh, are you doing those?
No, this is done. This is it. Done.
Okay.
Moving.
Got it. One of the odder transitions career-wise has been Bobcat Goldthwait, who was a stand-up comic and a guy with a crazy voice, and now he's a director, and he directs these kind of self-financed...
I missed this, so I'm dying to hear what you had to say.
Poorly financed movies that are really interesting, like, World's Greatest Dad I thought was terrific.
Which really is creepily good.
It is really good.
It's creepy good.
He kind of blew it with God Bless America.
Which I didn't see.
But now he's back with The Willow Creek, which is... his take on the whole found footage Blair Witch Project thing.
Yeah.
And here it's about a guy and a girl who go off searching for Bigfoot, which I guess Goldthwait was a Bigfoot guy back when he was a kid. He loved Bigfoot. So he knows from whence he speaks in terms of this. Although he does seem 10 years too late on this particular found footage concept thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that if you divorce all of that from just the merits of the movie, this is probably, believe it or not, Bobcat's best directed film. There is a sequence. There's a sequence in this movie. And I'm not a big fan of these horror films and found footage and whatever. I don't like that stuff. But there's a 20-minute uninterrupted take in this movie where he uses sounds off camera, on camera. He uses what he wants to show you, what he's not showing you. it is this bravura 20-minute uninterrupted take that is just will blow your mind.
The kind of stuff
it's
you got to rehearse 150 times.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's by far the best thing he's ever directed.
Interesting.
And put together, just as a filmmaker, he had it all. He had the visuals figured out. He had the audio figured out. He had the performances. He knew what he wanted to do. It's less about I have this point to make about father. I have this point to make about him. Yes.
See, I always enjoy things like that. Not because I enjoy the gimmickry of it, but what I enjoy when that's executed well is the fact that that this is a director who wants to do something a little bit more like what directors do with the stage. You know, you can't, when you're making a movie, you're shooting coverage, you shoot this, and you make things work in little, 30 and 40 minute or 40-second increments or 1 or 2 minute increments. You just you're making the bites work. And when you're staging something for an audience on Broadway, it starts and it goes and it's continuous. And everybody's got to know their lines and everybody's got to make their entrances and their exits in real time. And the lights have to be cued and the sound and the backdrops and everything has just got to be like clockwork. And when a filmmaker tries to integrate that level of acuity in their work, I appreciate the effort.
Especially here in this sort of a movie.
Yeah.
So I have to say that if this film came out before Blair Witch or was part of that whole found footage phenomenon, this might have done very, very well for him.
Yeah.
But now, of course, he's 10 years too late on it. But the good news is that it's self-financed, cost him nothing, should get a bunch of horror people to watch it, probably will turn a profit, and hopefully he can make something with a little bit of a budget.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised. I'm happy for him. So it's really, it's not my kind of thing, but I have to say it's very well done. You can tell he loves Bigfoot. He's taking it seriously. There's some great sequences that are put together very professionally, more professional than anything he's ever done. So I will give this a thumbs sideways.
I'm going to go out on a limb right now, and I'm going to say Bobcat is going to someday fully crank it all the way, and we are going to see Bobcat Goldthwait, a quadruple Oscar nominee, acting, directing, writing, and producing. He's going to join Orson Welles and Warren Beatty in that club for Shakes the Clown 2, The Meth Years.
I hated Shakes the Clown. I hated that movie.
I know you did. The Meth Years.
The Meth Years. Anyway, speaking of meth, you'll need to take a lot of meth to get yourself through Blended.
Oh, jeez.
Which is Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. And this is a story about people who do stuff. Wait, do you really want me to talk about Blended?
They've made movies before.
And hopefully they'll never make movies
again. And hopefully
again.
they'll never do them again. This sort of killed the idea that that's a magical alchemical combination of stars.
It's not. It's a piece of crap. I'm not going to talk about it. I refuse.
Okay.
You can talk about it if you want.
Well, I didn't see it. I mean, it's I just saw the billboards and I just thought that's just tragic.
It's like it tries to be silly with the ostrich flying around, and then it tries to be sentimental. And I'm sorry, Adam Sandler's sentimental, not buying it.
But it's just there's something. The culture has moved beyond his sense of humor. It's not that it's juvenile. It's that there's something trite about. I mean, without even seeing it, I could just tell. Once upon a time, movies like Up in the Air. You remember Up in the Air?
Sure.
The Kevin Bacon. He goes to Africa to find the big tall guy and turn him into a basketball. He's like a basketball scout.
I thought you meant Jason Reitman's.
Oh no, not that. No, it's The Air Up There.
The Air Up There.
The Air Up There. That's what it was. Up in the Air. The Air Up There, where he goes to Africa, finds that African dude. I'm going to turn you into a basketball star, and treating Africa like this quaint continent to mine it for all kinds of sort of obvious humor. That's not politically correct anymore.
Right.
And I don't think it's even a racial thing. I think it's because now people are aware of the fact that you've got like girls being kidnapped and raped, and people are being slaughtered in Sudan and Somalia, and there's so much misery in Africa. There's so many countries that are in upheaval, and you see so much tragedy there as a result of social media, especially with all of this stuff that's going on in Nigeria. That I think it's much harder to sort of have a couple of pygmies come out of the bush with big smiles on their faces, like Step and Fetch It, and oh, isn't that cute and quaint? It's Africa. I don't think that flies anymore because we are now so much more aware of what a tragic place it is.
Certainly, the cycle is.
Yeah.
Is trending against that sort of humor. Now, eventually, in 10 years, once that part of the world is totally peaceful,
we'll go back to
go back to making fun of.
Yeah, as long as we pay them a whole lot of money, and there you go. They came together.
They did. Who did?
Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler. And you would think, oh, they're so funny. That is just going to be. That's like awesome. No, because you see Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler came together as well, and that had been funny before, and that wasn't funny this time. And by the same token, somehow this just doesn't work. This is what should have been a terrific little kind of comedy, but I just don't. I'm sure the people who made this film, David Wayne directed it. Not terribly familiar with David Wayne, but I'm loosely familiar with David Wayne, but. For some reason, this just, I'm always willing to cut people slack. If I've seen one or two of their films, I'd be like, oh, okay, let's see if you can do something different next time. But I don't know. There's just something here that this doesn't, how you can put these two people on screen together and not have it just be magical, I don't understand. I don't get it. Paul Rudd amuses me in almost every single thing that he does, and Amy Poehler.
Don't you feel like Paul Rudd needs to do something else? Don't you feel like Paul Rudd does the same movie every time?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, kind of.
I mean, that's why Ant-Man should be interesting. I feel like it's the first thing he's done that's not like he's the 40-year-old single guy who's uncomfortable in crowds.
I mean, here's the thing.
He does.
Here's the thing. Like David Wayne, just so people know, Wet Hot American Summer started his career. Okay, and I think that was kind of a fluke. And then Role Models, I enjoyed.
There's funny stuff in that.
Role Models is a very funny film, and Paul Rudd is hilarious in it. Wanderlust is kind of a mess. It's Paul Rudd again, sort of a mess. So it's like, what's going to happen here? And I don't think Wayne has any kind of a trademark. I don't think he puts his stamp on movies or anything. But for some reason, this just doesn't, I don't know. Anyway.
Speaking of anyway, Mom's Night Out is a horribly unfunny comedy about three single mothers who, want to go out and have a good time and be recognized for the normal people that they are.
Sure they do.
So this is just really horrible. This thing needed just a page one rewrite. This is just ridiculous. The cast is nothing. Sarah Drew, Sean Astin, who cares? Patricia Heaton, yay. And Trace Adkins, who's like a country music star for some reason.
Yeah. Did the Atkins diet, right?
Exactly. No, that was Patricia Heaton. She did the Heaton diet. And Sean Astin did the Astin diet. And then Sarah Drew did the Drew diet. Uh-huh. It's all coming together.
Sean Astin, we're gonna get to in a minute too, because you'll see.
Oh, you'll see.
Oh, yeah.
And this thing is shrill. It's just a big, long sitcom. It's to be honest, it's kind of for the faith-based crowd. So it's not going to be very edgy humor, which might be part of its problem. Because something like Date Night, like remember Date Night, and with Tina Fey, and see how bad that was.
Yeah.
Where you just wanted that film to go full on After Hours. Full on Scorsese After Hours.
Yeah,
just
but
go
it didn't.
To some dark, crazy places. Now this film, Mom's Night Out, you don't expect that. It's for the faith-based crowd.
Yeah.
But even given that low bar, shrill, not funny, ridiculous, pass on it.
Speaking of movies for the faith-based crowd, do you know about the Identical? Have you been following that whole thing?
I have a theory as to why that movie bombed.
Because it stinks. I didn't see it. I just read the reviews and I just thought that's a plot. Like somebody said, let's.
No. Quality is not an issue.
And they got Ray Liotta and Ashley Judd to be in the... How?
No.
What?
First of all, for the hardcore faith-based crowd, quality is not an issue. But what I'm saying is that the reason why... I'll tell you why it bombed. It bombed because of the title. The faith-based crowd, they want their movies to be called God Is Not Dead, The Wonderful People of Wonderful Land. Like, The Identical is too, it's too out there. Like, they got to figure out what it is. They don't really know.
I didn't know. It's about Elvis. Like, I didn't even know that Elvis had a twin brother that died, that was stillborn. Like, there were almost two of them. And this is like, what if he weren't stillborn? And if he'd been given to a traveling salesman who would raise him, and he never knew that he was Elvis's brother, and he grew up to become a great Elvis impersonator. And I'm reading this, I'm like, really? Honestly? Seriously? Like, that sounds like a Twilight Zone episode that somebody would have axed in development. That doesn't sound like a movie that actually makes its way to the screen. But anyway. All right. Cabin Fever, Patient Zero, The Birth of Fear. Cabin Fever, Patient Zero is, of course, a prequel to Cabin Fever, which was the low-budget horror film that, of course, launched...
it's not Drew Goddard, the other guy.
Yeah. From
I'll think of it.
Inglourious Bastards.
I'll think of it. What, the director?
Yeah, we interviewed him.
Oh, yeah, Eli Roth.
Eli Roth, thank you. That was a sterling interview that we had with Eli Roth.
By the way, can I say something which we have not talked about this?
Yeah.
You guys need to go to aura.tv.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have posted... We'll remind you of this at the end of the show.
Sure.
They posted old Stupid for Movie episodes.
Vintage,
I know.
They weren't vintage when we shot them, but it took them forever to put them up.
But it's a little frustrating because, for Aura, they're like, well, if enough people watch it, we can
Why is
green
anyone gonna
light
watch-
new episodes, but producer Mike was like, why is anyone going to watch episodes of us talking about 18-month-old movies? It's not going to happen.
Things just don't move very quickly over there.
So what I'm saying is that if you just go on there, give it a click, leave a comment, try to be nice.
Yeah.
We might be able to get these guys to maybe greenlight some new episodes. You can see how fat Wade's become.
I'm fat and strung out, I think, are the words that you used. And I was like, if you're strung out, though, you're like a heroin addict.
No,
and
that just means you're on drugs.
Oh, okay.
You can be fat and strung out.
When I think of strung out, it's like you're strung out, right? You're thin, you're emaciated. You look like
Don't pretend like you know what it's like to
like
be on
Christian
drugs.
Bale in the Machinist. Okay, so anyway, Patient Zero, Cabin Fever Patient Zero. It's a prequel. It's about how that virus started, that horrible flesh-eating, zombie-inflicting thing. And two things are going on here. You got a bunch of kids who are like going to do this little Caribbean boating getaway, right? Some girls and some guys. And they're going to do the we're going to do a little flesh action. No, not that kind of flesh action. Just you wait. And next thing you know, people are getting sores and limbs are dropping off, and there's like dead fish and then body parts in the ocean. And they're at an island, and they're freaking out. And then, of course, the island is where the thing starts. And you cut back and forth between that and whatever horrible laboratory experiment is going on in this Caribbean island where they've isolated this guy who apparently has an immunity to it. He's Patient Zero. His family's, dead, and his kid died in his arms, and that's Sean Astin. And I don't know why Sean Astin did this, because this is a horrible, low-budget, really not scary movie. It just tries to gross you out. It's really stupid. And there's one bit in here in particular that is supposed to be either funny or horrific, and it winds up just being incredibly disgusting in bad taste. When this one girl is getting the flesh-eating virus, there's a guy, one of the guys is trying to get it on with her. I won't tell you what goes on, but there's an actual sexual event, and you see the aftermath of it, and it's not scary, it's not horrifying, it's just, are you kidding me? Nobody at any point in making this film raised their hand and said, I really don't think you should go there. Don't go there. For the love of everything, don't go there. No one said that? Apparently not. Horrible movie. Blu-ray and DVD combo. I just can't recommend this on any level whatsoever.
Do we have to do all those?
I'm going to plow through this. This is an easy one. This is an easy one.
We're coming to the end here.
No, yeah, get going with that.
God's
movie.
Pocket is one of Philip Seymour Hoffman's final films, and it's not a great movie. It's Hoffman plays this guy whose stepson is killed in a construction accident, quote unquote accident, so he has to decide what to do with the body. And then this reporter played by what's his name? I forgot his name. This reporter played by the guy Richard Jenkins, the guy from Oscar-nominated Richard Jenkins.
Yeah.
He shows up and threatens to uncover what really happened in this accident. It's essentially a small town movie about stupid people trying to cover up their crime and being called out for their stupidity. And it was directed by John Slattery.
Oh, yeah.
The guy who's in Mad Men.
Right.
This is his first film. And so I have to say that I think that you can see why Slattery might like this it's very much like a gritty small town, almost like a underground criminal activity sort of film, like the mafia, like the small town mafia type film. But in the end, it just never really comes to life, and I never really cared about anybody in it. And they do it. It looks nice, it looks very 70s, like very sort of like everyone's sort of like lower middle class, So it's got a good sense of atmosphere, but and it's really well shot by the same guy who did Lost in Translation. But all the characters are too sketchily written for me, and I didn't really care about the characters. So I would pass on God's Pocket unless you really, 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 really love, and I don't blame you if you do, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
John Slattery used to have red hair. Did you know that?
Here we go.
He used to have red hair, but he changed it because in high school he got tired of people calling him the copper top Slattery. Okay, moving on.
Oh my God.
Moving on.
It's
I know
terrible.
it's like weird humor, right?
Wow.
It's so far out
that's
there.
That's how brilliant it is. Brilliant
It's
is just weird.
Just way out there.
You know what? We're going to revisit that joke in 25 years. It'll be seen as genius.
So, Louder Than Words is a release from Arc Entertainment. It was out theatrically briefly as well, not too many weeks ago. I talked about it on the radio. That's how I know that. And it's out on DVD this week. It has a terrific cast. Didn't really get a lot of exposure other than this, and I do urge people to go check this out. It's got a little bit of a TV movie vibe to it. David Duchovny and Hope Davis play this couple who, she has triplets, and they got together and had another kid of their own. And I don't want to give anything away. It's a true story. He's a developer in this story, and there's an illness that afflicts the family that becomes this catalyzing event. And it winds up becoming the true story about how this incredible hospital was established as a result of this tragedy. And you have to see the movie. It's really good. It's really well acted. One of the best things I've ever seen David Duchovny do. It's so nice to see Hope Davis again. I love Hope Davis. She's terrific in it. Timothy Hutton shows up later on in the movie. It's wonderful. The more I think about it, the more I like it. And then, unfortunately, Go for Sisters is yet another kind of semi-misfire for John Sayles. John Sayles has not made a great film since the early 90s. He had kind of, even beyond then, it's like it was sort of in the last 10, 15 years is when he just ran aground. He had 8 Men Out, and he had, City of Hope, and I mean, there were all these great...
Oh, John Sayles?
Yeah.
It's over.
He had so many good films in a row. Mate One, it was just like,
it was terrible.
Passion Fish. I mean, it was just, remember that run? That
he was
an
great.
Incredible run.
He was one of the
Star.
great independent directors of the time.
And then he's just been laying eggs for a decade.
Because all he does is just use his characters to spout his politics. There's no story. There's no characters involved. It's just terrible. He was a hero of mine back in the day because he was one of the great independent directors of his time.
Yeah, wow.
And now it's over.
Well, anyway, the story here is basically that this basically a woman, her son goes missing somewhere in Mexico. And in order to find him, she basically has to, go get this friend of hers who they've gone on different paths. They have to kind of, they go down there together, and then they hire Edward James Olmos, who's an old lawman who's now kind of a hired gun to try to figure out what happened to him. And it all tries to make a comment about crime on the other side of the border and illegal immigration, and there are a lot of things going on here. And it never really hangs together. I think he's hoping that the whole idea is that Edward James Olmos will somehow be really brooding and heavyweight, and he'll speak in that low, grumbly, gravelly hush that he does, and kind of bring a level of gravitas to everything that's not naturally there. And he tries to do that, but it just doesn't. It's I don't know. It just feels like there's an idea here in search of a script, and it feels like John Sayles is losing a little bit of his passion.
Maybe in this film, I didn't see him losing his passion. What I find is that he's not using fully fleshed out characters and an interesting story in order to get that passion out there. I
agree.
Now it's just all about he's just proselytizing his politics through his movies. We have 2 from Jesse Eisenberg, and then Wade's going to go through all those movies, and we have a Vox box.
Yes, we do have a Vox box.
And then we're done, Wade.
Yes.
I have to eat more.
We got a couple of Criterions to talk about too.
All right, we have Night Moves. This is the latest from Kelly Reichardt, who is the incredibly talented director of Old Joy and Meek's Cutoff. This one has Jesse Eisenberg and Dakota Fanning and Peter Skarsgård as 3 environmentalists who want to blow up a dam. Now, this is not what you think it is. Yes, you do see them buy the boat that they're going to use to blow up the drive to the dam with. You see them buying the little parts for the bomb. But it's really not about that. It's about the 3 of them, why they came together, the various contours of their relationship. This is Kelly Reichardt. This is almost her version of a, of crime thriller.
Yeah.
And she does it exactly as you would hope. It's very austere, and it's just very sort of simply presented. Yet there's still a lot of stuff going on. It's just a great threesome. So I would highly recommend Night Moves. The other one is The Double. Now, I have to say, I'm not really the hugest fan of Jesse Eisenberg. Maybe it's the voice. Maybe I just don't like his voice. But I do like The Double, which, by the way, is a lot better than The Double starring Richard Gere a couple years ago. Anyway, this is a really interesting film directed by that guy whose name I can never pronounce, Richard Ayoade.
Oh, Ayoade, yeah, that guy, yeah, I do. Who's a good actor, but he's a great director. I don't particularly like this film, but I loved Submarine. Thought Submarine was awesome.
Submarine was good.
Fantastic. This is not in that same week.
Really, you don't think so?
Nah.
I mean, it's very bleak. It's very bleak, and it's fascinating, and it's bleak, and it's striking. And I thought it was an interesting movie.
Too many doppelganger movies within too short a period of time.
But this is one of those like old school like interior doppelganger movies where it's not like an actual. It's you know what? It's almost like Another Earth, where it's not about an actual other person. It's just about what it all means.
I didn't like Another Earth either.
You didn't like that movie?
No.
Yeah, in your mind. Anyway, The Double's good. It's got a good. It's got a couple good special features, including a behind-the-scenes thing, and an interview with the director. And Wade didn't like it. I did. The Double.
All right, groovy. Okay, so I'm going to blow through some Warner Archive titles right now. Thanks to listener John Lusty. Thank you, John. I want to give a shout-out to John Lusty. John Lusty sent us an email and said, hey, why don't you guys interview the Warner Archives dudes? They do a podcast, and they overlap, and they have the same attitude. And I was like, good idea. So I reached out. It's been scheduled, taking place.
It has?
It has been scheduled. So in a couple of weeks, we will have that interview with at least one of the guys in charge of Warner Archive. And so here's what we got. We got a couple of Blu-rays here. They do not do these often. A couple of great Blu-rays from Warner Archive, the Warner Archive collection, usually an MOD deal, like the Archive Classics from 20th Century Fox. In this case, we got Blu-rays. One of them is Out of the Past with Robert Mitchum and Jane Greer. Fantastic noir. Classic, amazing noir that was remade into what movie?
Oh, Against All Odds.
Damn right. They're both great, though.
You didn't think I knew that, did you?
I knew you knew that. So, Against All Odds is great in its own way, but this is great in its own way.
This is Mitchum at his Mitchumiest.
Oh, it is.
I love Mitchum. He's the best.
So
that guy
good.
was such a badass.
So good.
He was just so. That guy was just so hard boiled.
The movie is hard boiled, right? It's Jacques Tourneur brings like that European kind of too smart for the room thing. Like noirs are usually gritty; they're not sort of polished and kind of. This gets in your blood, man. It's really, really good, and it's got a commentary by James Orsini, who of course does lots of commentaries, and they're all fantastic. And it's a gorgeous Blu-ray, beautiful, beautiful noir rendering. I wish it weren't an archive thing, but the other one, this makes me happy. The freaking Great Race, Mark. The Great freaking Race. Blake Edwards nailing it in The Great Race. People often see this and they're like, oh man, I love Terry Thomas in that movie. And I'm like, Terry Thomas wasn't in The Great Race. Yeah, he was. No, that's Jack Lemmon. That was Jack Lemmon basically doing Terry Thomas. Or Jack Lemmon doing Terry Thomas doing Snidely Whiplash. You can take it either way that you want, but it's Snidely Whiplash without Muttley, or it's, Jack Lemmon. It's just great. It is a wacky, nutty response to Around the World in 80 Days, and it's Tony Curtis and Natalie Wood driving their respective wacky cars, and Jack Lemmon is the villain, and the whole thing is about wacky cars going around the world. And if you've ever seen the Wacky Races cartoon, it is a complete takeoff of this movie. This has some of the best slapstick you will ever see in a movie. It is totally overwrought. It is candy-colored and ridiculous, and I love every single solitary second of it. It is on Blu-ray. It is a happy freaking day, Mark. The Great Race.
Woo!
All right, here go the rest of these in a quick shot. Volume 4 of the Bowery Boys, 12 more films. People are thinking, what, the Bowery Boys? Who are they, and what are all? They made a ridiculous number of movies, and they were so hot for a moment, and then everything just dropped off. Joe E. Brown is one of the just awesome film comedic presences of all time.
Nobody's perfect.
That's it. He gets a great part and maybe one of the greatest lines of all time, certainly the greatest closing line of all time in Some Like It Hot, but he had a great career before that. He's with Ginger Rogers and Preston Foster in You Said a Mouthful. He is hysterically funny in Elmer the Great, which was directed by the great Mervyn LeRoy. And he's also really, really good in Local Boy Makes Good, also directed by Mervyn LeRoy. All of these are from Warner Archive. He's just the lovable loser. He's one step removed from Buster Keaton, and in a really entertaining way. I mean, he kind of takes the silent comic and he pushes it an extra level. He almost could be a Marx Brother in some respects. But anyway, these are all just wonderful, wonderful movies. And then we've got a couple with a little bit of a religious angle to them, not in any way alike. One is Lolly Madonna, and the other one is Nasty Habits. Nasty Habits is a comedy that was directed by Michael Lindsay Hogg, who had very, very few films to his credit, but this is one of the few that's certainly worth a quick mention. It is a very unusual story that takes place in a convent, and it's meant to be kind of it's basically about Watergate. It's sort of about Watergate. If it were, it's a Watergate allegory set with nuns in a convent. It's a very strange movie, but kind of interesting in that political context. Lolly Madonna, Triple X, is really, as other than the title, doesn't have anything to do with religion, but it's got a great cast, and it's directed by Richard Sarafian, who is the father of all the other Sarafians, Teddy Sarafian, and all those guys. They've been making B movies for a while. The original Richard Sarafian, who also was a pretty great character actor on his own, who has shown up in a few films of late before he passed away. David Lynch directed him in I think it was the last Twin Peaks movie. Anyway. Great performances here from an aging Rod Steiger, an aging Robert Ryan, a young Jeff Bridges, and Susan Hubley as in the title part of Lolly Madonna. It's a western. It's a kidnap movie. It's a feud movie. Gary Busey even pops in here along with Randy Quaid, and it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's got that 70 vibe that everybody's always loving. Mark, how close are you? I'm almost. Come on, we need you back here. We got to finish off with the Criterions here in a moment. Anyway, Gary Cooper in the Adventures of Marco Polo. This was a Samuel Goldwyn film that was, kind of. It's a little silly, but it's Marco Polo. What do you want? I mean, it's the story of Marco Polo. It's not like the TV miniseries, but it's the story of Marco Polo, and it's fine. And you also have another Samuel Goldwyn film here, Enchantment, from the Samuel Goldwyn classics, which are now being released through the Warner Archives. Directed by Irving Rice, who is a very good director, but beautifully photographed by none other than the legendary Greg Toland, who of course did Citizen Kane and doesn't take the credit that he should for a lot of those great Orson Welles movies. And basically, it's just a lovely performance by David Niven and Teresa Wright. You want to see both of them. Farley Granger and Jane Meadows, a lot of other great actors show up in this thing, but it's all about David Niven and Teresa Wright. I love Teresa Wright in absolutely everything. David Niven is lovely in just about anything, so you can't lose. And it's a World War II romance movie. Don't need to know any more about that. And then if you've ever heard of Raffles, the Raffles films have been remade a number of times. They are essentially sophisticated caper films, and they're wonderful. And David Niven again with Olivia de Havilland in one of them, and Ronald Colman in the other one. And those are some great actors. So if you want to see basically the same story told two different ways, it's pretty great. It's this whole kind of gentleman thief stuff, and it's really good stuff. It's really good. So Ronald Colman and David Niven playing the same part in the two different Raffles movies. Mark, let's. Well, you know what? We'll finish off. I'll let you ramble about that, and I'm going to cover these two Criterion titles.
Well, we have a Vox Box.
We do have a Vox Box. So let's.
About that. Star Trek: The Compendium. Now, this is Star Trek. This is J.J. Abrams' two Star Trek films. These are all put together in one. Now, there's of course a lot of controversy about this because the two are already available, and what are we getting new here that we didn't have in the other ones? And I'm sorry, I don't really care what they put in the new ones. If you already own the original Star Trek, J.J. J.J. movies, do you really need to get these unless you must have it in like a black and silver box set? I'm thinking not. So I would just pass on this. If you already have it, you don't have to get it. Sorry, you don't. I mean, if you really want the extra stuff that's on here, I think that part of this came about because when JJ's original film came out on Blu-ray, there was an exclusive here, there was an exclusive there. This place got these extras. This Best Buy or whatever, Walmart got these other extras, and people got pretty pissed off at that, as well they should. So now he's kind of trying to make amends for that. So I don't know, man. I'm not sure I would want to reward them for finally correcting their mistake, but if you really want all the extras, you got no other choice. So it's up to you. As for me, I already have the other two, and I'll just stick with those.
Shohei Imamura is a Japanese director who typically does really nice, lovely, humanistic movies, but he occasionally will go into that dark place that other Japanese directors go, the Takashi Miike area. And in this case, Vengeance is Mine from 1979 is pretty brutal, and we get a Criterion Collection Blu-ray release of this. Not Blu-ray and DVD. We're now beyond that. This has been on DVD before, but this is a strictly Blu-ray only release now. And man, this film is just so brutal, and it is just so disturbing, and it's so tweaked. It's about a guy. It's a true story. This guy who came from a really good background, and then just started brutally murdering people over the course of 78 days. Crazy stuff, man. But anyway, great audio commentary from the original DVD release on here by Tony Raines, and a lot of other really good extras. 1999 interview with the director, and a few other things. So. That's an excellent, excellent Criterion release. And then what I've been waiting for since the day I was born.
Yeah.
Blu-ray and DVD dual format release of All That Jazz. We talked about Bob Fosse earlier, who stole a little bit of Coppola's thunder in 1972 when The Godfather could have won everything, but then Cabaret took some of the bigger awards like director. Bob Fosse, similarly, All That Jazz won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival.
Bizarre.
In like successive years, there was All That Jazz and Apocalypse Now winning the Palme d'Or, and then they were both wound up being released the same year in the United States and were up against each other in 1979, I think it was. It was 1979 for the Oscars. And I remember All That Jazz so upset me at the time, because I wanted Star Trek Motion Picture to win all 3 of the Oscars it was nominated for, one of which was art and set direction, and I thought, how can any other movie compete? And then All That Jazz wound up winning, and I was like, what? That movie with all the confetti and the paper mache and the guy dancing, what the hell? And of course, then I was older, and I saw the movie, and I was like, that's amazing. It's autobiographical, of course. Bob Fosse kind of putting all of his demons into Roy Scheider in an incredibly imaginative movie that no studio would have the guts to make today. You agree?
Are you kidding me?
There's no conceivable way a studio would greenlight this today. That is a tragedy. It is a loss for everyone. So screw the Chinese for liking so many of our bad movies that they're not giving them any incentive to make movies like this. This is amazing, and tons of great stuff on here. The transfer will blow your mind. It will blow your mind. The sound will blow your ears. This is like reference standard stuff. This should go whatever shelf you put all of your A-lists on. Put this one right up there with Thin Red Line and all the rest. This is top-notch. Everybody should own All That Jazz in the dual format Blu-ray and DVD release from Criterion. Mark.
I didn't get a breath there, but I'm going to keep doing it. Bugs.
Hi, Mark and Wade. It's Cheryl Dixon. And this past episode, you guys talked about old biblical epics. And it got me thinking about the 2 biblical films this year, Noah and Exodus this December. And though the Oscars are way out, do you think Aiden will hit big with the Academy? And also, do you think Exodus can finally give Ridley Scott a win? Because he has been off his game for a while. Do you think this will be his big film, his achievement? Or will it be just another in a long line of disappointments? Keep up the good work. Thanks.
Thank you, Chevelle. And by the way, send your Vox boxes and emails to gods@digigods.com, gods@digigods.com, or visit us on the Facebook page. Just search on Digigods. In answer to this, I don't think Noah stands a chance of getting any Oscar nominations. That's
the only reason why it would, which of course didn't happen, is if Noah wound up starting this whole wave or conversation about biblical epics, and they greenlit another 5 of them, and it was a worldwide phenomenon. I think that the Academy would want to reward that. But in the end, Noah, which was, I think, a brave and interesting film, it didn't do that well, and it didn't start any sort of a conversation.
It was too religious to be taken seriously, and it was too commercial to be taken religiously. And it kind of bonked its audience. It tried to walk a line that I think is ultimately unsuccessful. So I think Noah's completely out of the question. That's a non-starter. Exodus, we have to wait and see it.
But you know what? At this point, it's going to wind up being one of those, Al Pacino kind of things. Where does the Academy feel like we got to give it to him before he retires or dies? It's his time.
Look, if Exodus is viewed, this is what it's going to come down to. First of all, it's weird casting. I gotta be honest. Christian Bale as Moses just feels like, really? I mean, Charlton Heston, really? I don't get it. And then what's his face as
Adam Sandler?
No, as Pharaoh.
Adam Sandler?
No, what's his name? Joel Edgerton.
Yes.
That's just bizarre because he stepped in at the last minute after who was it that fell out? Somebody was originally cast.
I have no idea.
There was somebody else originally cast in that part, so he was kind of an afterthought. Here's the thing. Here's what it's going to come down to. First it'll come down to whether the movie's any good. It has to be good. If it's like another Robin Hood crap thing, then people are just going to be like, Ridley's lost it. He's just wasted somebody's $200 million. But if people are going to compare it to the Ten Commandments, which is, by all accounts, a horrible movie. Look, I loved it growing up. Still watch it, as much as I can tolerate every Easter. Yes, fine. It's an American tradition, and it's one of the 5 most successful films of all time if you look at tickets sold and take inflation into account and all that stuff. However, it's a terrible movie. Cecil B. DeMille just did a terrible job with it. The whole thing is shot on sound stages, and it's hokey. You got Edward G. Robinson, Moses. You got Ann Baxter, Moses. It's like melodramatic crap. My father taught John Derek, who plays Joshua in it, and he's horrible. I remember my father when I was a kid. He'd watch it, and his head in his hands is like, "Did I teach you nothing?" It's a terrible movie, but it's a beloved movie. So if Exodus is compared to the Ten Commandments and people say, wow, it's not even as entertaining as that terrible movie, then it's not going to be in there. But if people feel like finally somebody took the Ten Commandments story and did what DeMille didn't and gave it gravitas and found those interesting little moral areas in it and didn't just try to please the literal biblical crowd and really tried to kind of find something different in it, then I think it might have a shot. But it's entirely in the treatment. And it's not Ridley Scott that I put my faith in. It's Steve Zalian. So we'll see what Steve Zalian has done with the script and how much latitude he's had. He hasn't written anything super killer in a long time. So if that Schindler's List gene is still working in him, it could be something impressive.
If that gene is still working in him, it would be weird that Ridley Scott would be the one to really give that script full flower.
Yeah.
You can see Spielberg giving Schindler's List full flower, but I don't
Sure.
know that. Here's my amazing, beautiful, wonderful script, Ridley Scott, director of Alien. Here, take it. Make it amazing.
It's going to look good. Arthur Max, who was the production designer on Gladiator, is the production designer on this again. So it's going to look amazing. So, and Charles de Lauzirika has been on set with that thing for months.
Yeah.
He's been
the director of Crave.
He's been Facebooking like mad about it. So we'll see. All right, Chevelle, thank you for the question. Email us at gods@digigods.com. Your Vox box is and your emails.